Pick up everybody and welcome back to Sports Centric. I'm your host, Billy 209, and I'm going to give you my reflections on the Arsenal versus PSG game coming up in Champions League final and the two semi-finals, and a little look at the players as well that played in the semi-finals. The important. All right, where do we go? Left to right. Let's start with Arsenal. Arsenal are a very good team, and I have had my reservations when I look at Arteta. For me, he reminds me of a lot like Pochettino. He came into Arsenal as a relative unknown, and over the years, he's established a team. Now, for me, the criticism with Arteta is the fact that he hasn't got across the line. So he's a bit like I said a bit earlier, Pochettino in that aspect, that you've built a team up, but how long are you going to wait before Arsenal actually win a trophy? There has to be something to show for your effort. And that's what trophies are. They are a recognition to say that you've actually achieved something. When you win something like that, it should spur you on to want to achieve more. Build up a hunger and appetite. Good clubs here, good managers, inspire their players to continue winning. It's easy to get to the top of the mountain, but it's hard to stay up there. And yes, Arsenal have finished twice in the last 3 years. Once behind Man City when they had an unassailable lead, and behind Liverpool last season. This season, yeah, Man City was still in transition. Liverpool have dropped off. And I believe that's due to the amount of players that they signed in the summer. They take time to gel. And a lot of the players like Vert, they come over from the Bundesliga and they need time to adjust and settle. Things happen in life, like finding homes for themselves, for their families, etc., etc. Things that people don't see in the limelight. Players have to adjust when they come over to a new country. So it takes time for them to feel like it's home in the adjustment stage. This is why I give players about a year when they're signed so that we can actually get to see them perform. Obviously, you can have a look at some players like Matisse Tell last season, for instance, against Wolves, where he was lack of composure. But in the main, you have to give players like Verts, you've actually seen them perform in the Bundesliga, time to adjust over here because it's a different league. And what skill sets you had in the Bundesliga needs to be adjusted over here. So this is why I tend to give Liverpool a little, not say pass, but I can understand the context of why Liverpool are up there. As well as the injury to Isak, because Isak was a massive force for them. My issue with Liverpool, for example, is that they haven't got really a defensive midfielder. They haven't got a natural one for me anyway. But back to the two teams we're talking about, PSG and Arsenal. Now, PSG, over the years, had superstars like Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe. And for multiple years, they were favourites or considered favourites for the Champions League, but they just couldn't get across the line with all three of them. Now, last year was the first year they had got rid of all three. Messi went over to MLS, Neymar to Saudi Arabia, and Mbappe to Real Madrid. So they had a brand new start. And when you see what they did and the young players that they brought in, the likes of Doué, the likes of, I'll give it to him, Barcola have come in and revolutionised PSG. Dembele, who was questionable at Barcelona with his injury problems, fair play to him, he stayed fit at PSG. Like he's got a brand new lease of life. And especially playing centrally, because he was playing as a winger at Dortmund and at Barcelona. And now he's coming centrally, and you can see how devastating he is, especially in one-on-one situations. And then you look at the the midfield behind the likes of Vitinha, Fabio Ruiz, and Neves. And they've got a strong midfield with creativity and a lot of technicians in there. And the weakness for PSG is their backline. It can be got at. But last night, for example, it stood up to the likes of Harry Kane, with Poncho having one of his best games for PSG. And one thing I will do, is I will always praise a player when I see he had a good performance. And Poncho had a very good performance. For a player I didn't rate last week, defensively, this week he stood up. He didn't give Kane a moment to himself until the last few minutes of the game where Kane scored. But you could actually see that he had nothing left. He basically left everything on the pitch, Poncho. He was everywhere. And for me, that would make him the PSG man of the match by hands down. To keep someone like Harry Kane quiet for the majority of the game was fantastic. Then you've got Mendes offering width on the left-hand side. And you've got Hakimi on the right-hand side. Safinoff is their backup goalkeeper. Then he's had a brilliant performance and had a few good saves as well. So you look at PSG as a whole and you think, right, attacking-wise is your strengths. Defensive-wise is your weakness. But yet they put it all together yesterday, and the early goal from Dembele settled the game, to be fair. Once they had a 2-0 lead, it was an unassailable task for Bayern Munich. And with the way that Poncho played, like I said, Harry Kane was null and void for the majority of the game. And you could see that there was nothing left in the ideas of Kompany and Bayern Munich towards the end. And then we look at Arsenal. Like I said, Arsenal with Eze in the summer. In the summer, it was well known and documented that Arsenal were after Eze. And you can see why they were after Eze, because for years I found they lacked creativity and imagination. Now, my issue with Eze is that Arsenal predominantly play him on the left-hand side. I don't think that's advantageous to Eze. I think he's better centrally, where he's driving at the opposition defenders, making them back heel. And he's about to provide that unexpected. That's the kind of creative midfielder I see for Eze. This is why I say he's practically an 8/10. But he's one of the ones that no one's going to expect anything, right? He can provide the unexpected, but he also has the pace to have defenders going in the back. He also has the power to have defenders going in the back here, and they're backing off him. So, and this is what I saw at QPR with Eze. But he was a fantastic signing for Arsenal, £68 million. That's a steal, to be fair, for a player like that. And hopefully he plays for Arsenal in the final, plays well, and he can take that form into the World Cup with England. Now, I must say, the next person I'm going to mention for Arsenal, as much as it pains me being a Spurs fan, is going to be Declan Rice. What a fantastic footballer Declan Rice is. When you think that he captained West Ham to the Europa Conference League, which is the best honour. That you look at a team like West Ham and you think that's the best you could get. Declan Rice captained that team to that final and win the trophy against Fiorentina. Then he got his big move to Arsenal, £100 million move. And you look at what he provides in that team. He drives the Arsenal players forward and he makes them tick from the midfield. And players like that are vital to a team. They're the engine room of the team. And their purpose in the team is critical to the way the team plays. And Declan Rice leaves his heart and his sleeve on the pitch. And that's most games you'll see him doing that. And like I say, he's going to be the heartbeat for England in the summer. Zubimendi, like Wirtz, I've seen him do stuff for Real Sociedad. And that, like I said, takes time for players to come over to another country and express themselves. So I give Mendy not a pass, but a little caveat there. He has had good games for Arsenal, and it has come up with critical goals for them from the midfield. But as we get into the final, we're going to have the best defensive team in Europe in Arsenal versus the best attacking team in PSG. And it's a question of who's going to win that battle. Now, as a football fan, yeah, I have to say I want PSG to win. And I'll say it on two fronts. One, as a French fan, I am hoping that PSG win the final. So like a lot of the players coming to the World Cup here on a high. And the second one is, as a Spurs fan, it would pain me to see Arsenal in the Champions League. But if they do, fair enough, they do deserve to win the Champions League. And then Arteta, for me, will get the praise and adulation he thoroughly deserves. But this is going to be the moment of, are you a Pochettino who can get a team so far? Or are you a manager who's able to get the team across the line? So this is his moment of truth as a manager. And it'll be interesting to see whether he can step up or not. But what are your thoughts on this matter? I've talked enough. What are your thoughts and feelings on this matter? Leave your comments in the chat. Leave them in the description below, in the comments, in the community section below. Because I want to know what your thoughts and feelings are on these two teams getting to the final. What do you think they're going to provide coming into the final? And I'm going to make this one a bit more European competition friendly, I'm going to say. And I'm going to talk about tonight's game between Aston Villa and Nottingham Forest. And I feel that Villa left a bit within themselves last week. I can't lie. I looked at the way that Villa approached the game and the mannerism they approached the game. I don't feel like they left it all on the pitch last week. I feel they left something in reserve. And Nottingham Forest deserve to win the game. And I said this last week on the channel, they deserve to win the game. But I just didn't think Villa attacked them until after Forest took the lead. So tonight's going to be interesting. And even in the game against Tottenham, where they rested players for the game, and their aspect of it, I want to see what they have on the pitch tonight. And I think we're going to get a surprise tonight. Because I reckon Aston Villa will win the Europa League. But what are your thoughts in the Europa League competition? Do you think Nottingham Forest will win tonight? I just think Villa will have something up their sleeve waiting for Nottingham Forest tonight. And it'll be interesting to see whether they do it. Because I'm looking at Morgan Rogers. I'm looking at Watkins, who's a fantastic striker, especially playing off the last man. If it's a foot race between Watkins and the last defender, I'm betting Watkins every day of the week. And I want to see whether Aston Villa put it out on the pitch. And if they do win the Europa League, imagine this: 7 years ago they were playing Conference League. 7 years ago they were playing in the Championship after going down the season beforehand. Jack Grealish was basically available, and I don't want to talk about it here because there'll be in a video rant probably at some point anyway. Because there's the signings here that, as a Spurs supporter, I'm disappointed at. It's not the going after the Koundés who end up going to Barcelona, or the Bastonis who don't want to join Tottenham from Inter Milan. They're not the signings that annoy. The signings that annoy are like the Ezes when they were at QPR. There's some minions before the sort of Man City go there. There's something beforehand. It's the one where you look at Alex Scott, for example. Players that weren't ready at the time, but if you had a experienced player before them, there was ability there before them at previous clubs. They would have taken their time to settle into the club, and there'd be a transition period where the older statements can move it on. And then the next generation take over. But it's nothing. And I've heard this expression, the juice from the squeeze. I believe we've seen the juice of the squeeze for this Tottenham team. That's as far as I'm leaving it. I think we had the juice from the squeeze a long time ago, to be fair. But it is what it is. But what do you think is going to win in? Who do you think is going to win in the Europa League final? What are your thoughts on this matter? Please, like I say, leave your comments in the comment section. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Sports Centric. Bless.